Hello, everyone.
Hi, welcome to our first podcast.
So we don't have any intro music to start off with. We're still working on that. There's little kinks we need to smooth out before we know what we're doing. But there will be some sick intro music in the future, so look forward to it.
Are we going to get some sensual stylings of Kris as some intro music?
I could do that for you. Is that what you want?
I'm not sure if it's what I want. It might be what the people want. Let's find out.
What a weird world.
That was definitely more than I was expecting.
You
For
said
sure.
sensual, so I,
Right, right.
I tried to deliver.
That was great.
Just got to get what the people want,
Hopefully that gets us at least one listener for our first episode.
Crossing our fingers that my sensuality was just enough.
All right. Well, today we are talking about mermaids and sirens.
Mermaids and sirens. That is such a good topic. The reason it's such a good topic is mermaids are so hot right now. They're
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
like a cult following.
Yeah, no, I'm in the cult for sure.
Well, and they're also like really marketable. So I'll go to freaking like the Target section that has $1 and there's a bunch of mermaid stuff. Like when did that start happening?
Right. Yeah. No, they are kind of everywhere. I've noticed.
And well, even me, I was looking for a Starbucks cup, and the only one available was this like cute little mermaid Starbucks cup with scales on it.
Oh, cute.
Yup. So yeah, it's one of those things that's super marketable.
Oh, fun. Well,
It's
for a second there, I thought you were referring to like the Starbucks logo, but you were talking about the actual cup has scales on it.
the logo. Why the logo?
Um, the little lady in the green circle, she is actually, Starbucks says that she is a siren.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, the lady the things that she's holding are actually her tails.
Okay, that's hilarious because I was at a grocery store that had a Starbucks the other day, and I was looking at it. I was like, "What the frick is that? What like?" That is so funny that it's a siren.
Yeah, yeah. So even Starbucks knew that they were going to be popular and they were cashing in.
That's incredible. Okay, so are sirens and mermaids like basically the same thing?
Well, actually, nowadays they're pretty much the same thing, and they have a lot of the same lore surrounding them. But originally, there were a couple of big differences between the two.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to hear a little bit about the history of sirens and where they actually came from?
Absolutely. That's what we're
Okay.
here for.
All right. Well, first, why don't you tell
Hey, hey,
me
hey, hey, hey.
what?
Hold on. Let's dive in. Hey,
That's really embarrassing, but I love that pun.
I tried.
Okay, Kris, what do you know about sirens before we start?
Okay, so if sirens and mermaids are different, the only time that I've heard the word siren is from like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Hmm.
I think it was the third movie where they had these like really sensual, beautiful mermaid creatures that they called sirens, but they were kind
Right.
of evil because they would like lure the seamen in, the pirates in, and they were like so attractive that they would go try to find them, but then they would like actually eat people.
Oh, they did. They were okay. All
Yeah, so
right.
they were like really nasty. And I don't think that they were mermaids. They were specifically sirens.
That's weird. So I watched all the Pirates of the Caribbean and I remember the mermaid-esque creatures. I don't remember them being called sirens. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And I don't remember them eating people, but
Yeah, straight up. Like,
that's terrifying.
yeah, they would eat them. Like they would lure them in and then attack their boats and then eat all of them.
Okay, well,
Yeah. So I
all
think it
right.
was at World's End. So that was all like the crazy stuff that
Right,
they
right,
found.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
they like went into a different universe almost. That was a weird movie.
Right. Yeah. And nobody would want to go there because of the sirens, because they were so
Right. Oh
dangerous.
my gosh.
So that's all I
Okay.
know. So I'm assuming that sirens are more like villainized than mermaids.
Okay.
That's my perspective.
Okay, well that's a good start. Actually, before I researched it and I had listened to several podcasts on the topic of mermaids and sirens, and sirens don't really get a deep dive on them because, as you'll find out, they're kind of their own entity, actually. Um, Eventually, sirens and mermaids do become what we know of them now, where they're basically the same creature. But
Huh.
sirens actually started back with Greek mythology. All right, so I have here some information about sirens. Oxford Dictionary actually describes them as winged creatures whose singing lured unwary sailors onto the rocks. So originally, sirens were believed to be singing woman bird combos who distracted ships with their songs onto the rocky shores of their islands to crash.
Hey, okay, so that's kind of the Pirates of the Caribbean take on it because
Yeah,
they would sing and lure them in,
yeah,
but they didn't have wings. So that's
right.
interesting.
It is interesting on how they kind of melded together over time
Hmm.
because to me they're completely different. But you know what this does remind me of, side note, is in Zelda, when you have the Zora creatures who are like aquatic, and somehow they are attached to the bird creatures that you see in Wind Waker. Do you remember those?
Yeah, so it was like the evolution of the bird people turned into the Zora somehow.
Yeah, but I think it was the opposite way. I think the Zoras turned into bird people if Wind Waker
Oh,
was after
you're right, because the
Ocarina.
Ocarina Temple, like the earth flooded.
Yeah.
You're so right.
So weird. Anyways, okay, so
It's like the opposite. So like
yeah,
sirens turned into mermaids and then Zoras turned into the bird people.
right. But that's what I
That's
was thinking
funny.
the whole time I was writing this. I was like, this is Zelda, this is Zelda. Anyways, not that I got that out of the
That's a
way.
good connection.
Let's continue talking about sirens. Okay, so we talked about how they sing and attract the sailors to into their islands onto the shores to crash. This okay, so if anyone were to hear this and actually escape their call and survive, the sirens themselves would be cursed to die, which is pretty terrible. But I guess if they're trying to kill people in general, then
They gotta have some sort of like a,
Achilles heel.
Achilles heel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's interesting. Okay, so they have to be ruthless. It's built into their survival to be ruthless.
Yes, yes. It's part
Wow.
of who it's basically their nature to do this.
Hmm.
Um, Now I didn't see any lore on if they actually like eat them, but I guess why else would they be killing them? For just
Right.
for fun? I'm not sure.
They're just gonna waste fresh meat. Like
Not in those times. Times is hard back
hard
then.
times is hard.
Okay. So, sirens are usually represented with bird bodies and the heads of women. It's said that sirens are the daughter, which this part's confusing as well, but the sirens are the daughter of the river god Achelous and some undetermined Greek muse. There were a couple options for who the mother was, but I don't really want to get into rumors and spread gossip. So I'll just let you look that part up and decide for yourself.
Like this.
But
This is a holy truth podcast.
correct, correct. We got to have all the facts up in
All
here.
the facts, yeah.
So she
Ooh,
was a muse, but there was a couple names and they were all Greek, so I'm not going to go through and just name them all and
right.
confuse everybody. So,
Hmm.
all right,
Well,
what
and Greek and Roman mythology is actually pretty different. So there's a lot of offshoots of like Greek mythology.
Oh, well, hopefully this is all the same Greek mythology that I was researching, that it all kind of goes in the
Yeah.
same lore. It's hard when you're researching mythical creatures. There's not,
There's a million different interpretations.
correct. Yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay. What is known is that this winged transformation came about because of Persephone. Somehow the sirens were connected with her, either because they were her servants or they were like her companions. They just looked up to her. Um, but at some point, when Persephone was abducted, two tales of how the sirens came to be were spun. Two tails, get it? Sirens. All right. So first,
Hey. It took me a second, but I got it.
all right.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So the first tale was that Persephone's father, Demeter, had the sirens turned into these bird monster ladies because they had failed him in assisting to find Persephone. So it was like a curse. The sirens became the way they were. I assume they were just humans or like Greek gods before, or maybe even muses because of their mother. And the second tale was that the sirens themselves asked for wings so that they were better able to search for Persephone. So either way, no matter if they asked for the wings or they were cursed with the wings, they failed in finding Persephone.
Gotcha.
So they were stuck with this
form.
Correct. Later on, they are depicted without wings, and they equip some kind of musical instrument, usually like a harp. Cool. Which again reminds me of the little bird people from Zelda. I wish I could remember their race name right now, but it's just not coming to me.
But that's crazy because they're bird people with the harps, and they like the girl liked to sing. That's nuts.
Weird. I think they did this research as well.
For sure.
But honestly, I don't know why they needed to add the instruments if their voices were already doing the trick. Which brings us to their biggest failure and why we are even talking about them along with mermaids instead of as their own show and their own episode. We have one major Greek mythological tale that explains what happens to these creatures, and that is the tale of Odysseus. Have you heard this before?
I know who Odysseus is, but I don't know the exact story.
Okay, so no, I didn't know who he was, and so I had to Google it. Odysseus was the Greek king of Ithaca for the other people who did not know. I looked
up that clears it up.
Yes. But he was also the guy who decided to do the famous Trojan horse trick where they all kind of hid inside the horse to get into the gates of, what was it, Troy? Do you remember that story? Yeah, he was the one who came up with that. Oh. All right. So Odysseus decides to leave Ithaca for whatever reason. He is given the warning from his lover, Circe, which that name, about the sirens, which she says, quote, "First you will come to the sirens, who enchant all who come near them. If anyone unwarily draws in too close and hears the singing of the sirens, his wife and children will never welcome him home again. And they sit in a green field and warble him to death with the sweetness of their song."
Warble? What's the word warble mean?
It's singing, but when I hear the word warble, I think like, oh
yeah. Like a 90-year-old lady singing opera.
Exactly. Warbling. Yes, exactly.
Oh, all right.
But he left anyway, even with this warning.
Good for him. No, bad for him.
Well, he thought he was smart. He told the sailors who were sailing on this ship with him to stuff their ears with beeswax as they sailed to attempt to muffle the sound of their song.
At least they tried.
For him, that was not a good enough option. That was child's play. Odysseus wanted to hear the song of the siren, but he didn't want to be taken in.
Okay, so he's like he's trying to do this whole self-mastery thing where he wants to be tempted, but he wants to be in control of himself.
Well, he gives the controls to the sailors when he ties himself to the mast of his boat and tells the sailors to tighten the rope if he starts to beg to be let free or in case he tries to break free for himself.
Jeez, that's intense.
Right. So they have the beeswax in the ears and he's tied to the mast, and I don't know how they're hearing him scream and beg if they've got beeswax in their ears.
Right.
But that's where we're at here. So they pass without being drawn in. Now, if you remember earlier, I had just said, if anyone hears the song of the siren and survives, the sirens are cursed to death. Odysseus heard the song of the siren, passed by them without incidents because he didn't use the beeswax. The sirens were so defeated that they hurled themselves into the sea and drowned.
Yikes.
Yikes indeed.
So they hurled themselves into the sea and drowned, so they can't breathe underwater.
Correct.
Oh, wow. So they're way different than mermaids.
They were originally, yes.
Huh.
But over time, I tried to find exactly like a pinpoint moment where the lore of sirens and mermaids crossed over. But unfortunately, there's no like, this is the moment that it happened. It happened, um,
Just gradually.
yeah, just gradually.
Yeah.
Um, Mostly it came about because of people's interpretations. Mainly in the medieval times, people were experimenting with their writings and their art, and they turned the sirens into these fish people or sometimes even serpent people, just because of, different lore and their own interpretations. But also the differences came from languages. The word siren can translate, depending on what language you're speaking, can translate into the word bird woman, or it could actually mean mermaid, depending on
Oh, the
where you're at in
translation.
the world. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Wow. So this Odysseus guy seems like a bamf. Did he just like defeat all the sirens, or was it just that group of sirens?
I think that was the end of the sirens in Greek mythology because they were only
Whoa.
on one island.
Okay, cool.
And if one siren effed up, the whole siren was put to death.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
So thanks, Odysseus. If we're to believe in that story, Odysseus was the reason that we do not have sirens anymore.
Oh, thank goodness, because that would be a real fear.
That would be
Honestly,
terrifying.
yeah, I'm already scared of the ocean anyways, so that's just like another fear that I don't need in my life.
Of
So thank you.
course.
This shouts out to Odysseus. This pod is brought to
Dedicated
you
to
by
Odysseus.
dedicated to Odysseus.
Oh, good times. Thank you, Odysseus.
Thanks, Odysseus.
Oh, goodness. All right. But at least by the 14th century, the word mermaid and siren become pretty much interchangeable. So for the
Oh,
rest of
cool.
this podcast, I'm going to refer to them as mermaids, but pretty much any information that you know about mermaids and or sirens is applicable here.
Well, sirens had a good run.
They did.
I have a side note for the difference between mermaids and sirens as like so there's this video game that you play on the DS and it's called Scribble Nazis.
Okay.
And you basically can type in anything in the world and it'll pop up.
Okay.
So, and then you can like interact with it. So if you type in mermaid, it'll have a mermaid like just walking around. But
Right.
if you type in siren, it will be the same mermaid, but it will attack you.
What?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
That weird?
So, yeah, that is weird. I think that siren just has more of a negative connotation on it, where mermaid's like more fun and playful.
For sure.
Yeah. Wow. That's weird.
There you go.
Okay. Well, they didn't do the research. They don't know it's a bird, but that's okay because nowadays it's not a bird anymore. They don't even exist.
Right.
They're gone. They're gone.
They're gone.
Mermaids took over.
Right.
All right. So what is a mermaid then?
You tell me.
All right. Well, a mermaid is described just how all of us Little Mermaid Ariel fans remember. A creature with the head of a woman and the body of a fish.
Heck yeah. So we weren't led astray. Disney did its job.
Belly button down, fish town, baby.
Yes.
Yes. All right. I can't help myself. Okay, so they've been around since the beginning of our civilization. They made appearances in cave paintings and many times as gods. Since Babylonian times, they've appeared in artwork, originally depicted as men, but eventually becoming mostly female, sometimes shown with two tails, sometimes a single tail, usually with long hair covering their bare top half, because us ladies are always running around topless. Just like in Ariel's community, sorry, side notes. Just like in Ariel's community, though, they have both mermen and mermaids, and they refer to them as mer people, even in the lore.
Well, that's really accepting of Atlantis.
Maybe they should add mer-theys to be a little more accepting, but
Mer
yeah, they're
men,
pretty close.
mer women, mer theys, and mer thems.
Mer-thems, yes, absolutely.
They like
Okay,
that.
so these mer people, basically, that's where the similarities stop. Ariel had a much sweeter story, unfortunately. Mermaids and mermaid-like folklore is found in many different cultures around the world. Couple examples, we've got the Selkie of Scotland,
Hmm.
who's actually not a mermaid, but they live as a seal in the water, and they can transform by coming out of the water once removing their seal skin, becoming human, and then they can somehow put it back on to go back into the water and become a seal. I didn't look much into that lore. We can maybe do an episode on silkies, but
Okay, well, I love that because anytime that I see a seal, or I've even been in La Jolla where I'm like underwater and I'm swimming with the seals, I
mm-hmm.
feel a connection. They like look at you, they know you're
Aw,
there, they wave at you. Like they just, I don't know, they're like doggos of the sea.
big old water puppies.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have that connection. So that'd be cool if like mermaids are seals.
That would be crazy. I mean, there's weird stuff. That's what this podcast is about. This world is weird.
It's a weird world,
It
baby.
really is. Okay, so we've got them, or we've got the Ningayo of Japan, a giant fish with a human head, monkey mouth, and sometimes fangs or horns.
That's disgusting.
Amen, sister.
I'm gonna
All
have to
right.
pass. It's a no from me. I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
No, Ron, no.
No, you can't.
There must be another way. Okay, so these we've also got, oh gosh, you got me all twisted. All right, so we've also got the Finfolk of Norway. Simply put, they're basically shapeshifters of the sea. They've been known to kidnap humans and adopt them as their servants.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Well, I
Yikes.
guess that's like that's the ocean taking their revenge.
Yeah, of all the fishing that we've done, especially in
Right.
the last couple of years.
Right.
Taking all the fishies out the ocean. One of the oldest origin stories is actually that of a Tergatus who in 1000 BC dove into a lake and took form of a fish. This is strikingly similar to the tale of Thessaloniki, Alexander the Great's sister. Apparently, when she died, she didn't actually die, but she was turned into a mermaid and lived in the Aegean Sea.
Oh, how convenient.
Right. I wish I could do that.
I pray that happens to me.
Amen. According to the lore, whenever a ship would cross her path, she would cause waves and then pop up and ask them a question. And it was the same question every time. Is King Alexander alive? To which there was only one correct answer. He lives and reigns and conquers the world. If the sailors provided this answer, they were allowed to pass and she would calm the waters. If they answered anything else, it was considered incorrect and they were at her mercy. She would conjure up a deadly storm, taking the ship and its sailors to their deaths. Would Ariel do that?
And her love for Prince Eric was pretty unnerving. So I mean,
personally, I don't think so. Last I checked, she was actually saving her hottie out of a burning ship. But
yeah, true. So let's go with no.
Let's go with no. Anyway, it's widely believed, no matter what Ariel's been doing, that mermaids are synonymous with death. In many cultures, they are associated with tragedy and sometimes blamed for deaths and disappearances of locals.
Wow, really?
Yes, they're taken very seriously.
Huh. So there's different parts of the world that are, if somebody gets lost at sea or as a coincidence happens, then mermaids could be an explanation.
Yeah, I saw an article, and this story is not in our podcast because I couldn't find a ton of information on it, but there was a girl who the news report says was taken by a gator, but the locals believe was taken by a mermaid because apparently when a body is taken by a gator, it's usually found again somehow.
Right, I've heard that.
This has not been found. This body has not been found at all. They've only found her clothes. So they're thinking that she got taken into the mermaid world.
Oh, well, that's pretty sick. Do you know where that was?
Zimbabwe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, in other cultures, though, they're seen as good or having like a symbiotic type of relationship with humans, sometimes even falling in love with them. Okay. It's actually believed.
Which brings us to The Little Mermaid.
Again, Ariel, dang it. It's actually believed, though, if they can fall in love and marry a human, they will receive eternal life in return.
Wow, that's quite the deal.
Right. So
Hmm.
that was Ariel's real motive. Now we know why she was
Now
so
we
crazy.
this is this kind of stuff that you learn on What a Weird World.
What a
You're
weird
welcome.
world, indeed. All right. So, in another story, Pliny the Elder wrote about mermaids in his work, Natural History. He described sightings off of the coast of Gaul. He wrote that their bodies were covered in scales and that their corpses would wash ashore frequently. He even described the governor of Gaul writing a letter to Emperor Augustus describing this issue of the washed up mermaids. But let's move on to famous mermaid sightings. There have been many throughout history.
That's interesting. I have really only heard of one, but it was a freaky YouTube video that was it was like 10 years ago, and everybody spread it around, but it seemed like fake. I don't know.
Yeah, most of the stuff I found on the internet was actually, unfortunately,
Fake.
a hoax. Yeah.
Hmm.
But if we're talking about famous mermaid sightings, we have to start with the most famously confused explorer, Christopher Columbus.
Ah, CC, my man.
He has his own mermaid claim.
No way. I never knew that.
Yeah. In 1493, sailing near the Dominican Republic, he reported seeing not only one, but three mermaids.
You're
He,
kidding me. He's
he's a
Peter
little,
Pan.
he was disappointed though. He described them as not half as beautiful as they're said to be, for their
Yikes.
faces had some masculine traits.
What a letdown.
Rude, right?
You finally see a mermaid, and that's what you get.
Although it's reported he also saw mermaids as well in Guinea. Most
Huh.
historians probably think he actually saw a manatee. So leave it to Christopher Columbus to just make things up.
I know. Like, can we even believe that guy?
He thought he was in India. No, I'm not sure we can do that. It's all right. Let's
Uh,
move on. In 1608, Henry Hudson was sailing up the river to his famous namesake bay when he and his crew claimed to have seen a mermaid.
okay.
They claimed she was swimming close to the side of their ship, gazing up at them. Quote, her back and breasts were like a woman's. End quote. Her skin was very pale with long black hair. When she dove, they saw her tail, which was that like a porpoise, speckled like a mackerel.
Okay, I know we're only into the second most famous sighting, but
Yeah,
it's that can't be a coincidence. That there is so many people who have throughout the world who have encounters like this.
right. In the deep sea, pretty much.
Right. And that it's always a woman, it's always the scales, it's always the tail. Like that's too much of a coincidence.
Personally, I feel like there probably is a species somewhere out there undiscovered. Maybe it's not a mermaid, but maybe it looks like what we think is a mermaid.
Dang. That would be cool.
Yeah, I really hope that we discover some of this ocean. We're
Well,
only at like what, 20%?
the ocean is 95% undiscovered.
Oh, wow. That's a lot more than I thought.
So there's a 95% chance that there's a mermaid out there.
That would be insane.
I'm making that claim right now.
All right. You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first. I mean, you can't sit there and say there's no mermaids when we haven't explored 95% of the ocean.
That's
So
my take on it. We're finding things all the time.
don't talk to me. There's
Don't
mermaids.
talk to me. All right. So we're moving on. In 1611, John Smith. Yes,
John Smith.
that John Smith.
What, Pocahontas John Smith?
Pocahontas John Smith.
Dang.
He was sailing through the West Indies when he encountered a mermaid he described as swimming with all possible grace, with green hair, by no means unattractive. And then he continued, from below the stomach, the woman gave way to the fish. Weird.
John Smith. And this is a historical figure. Like, this is in his
Yes.
journals.
Yes.
Intense.
1670, Lucas Debes, a Lutheran reverend in Denmark, says he and other witnesses saw a mermaid close to shore with long hair holding a fish.
So
Now, that one's really short, but I included it because it was holding a fish in its hands.
yeah, well, even the believers.
That's insanity.
Even religious people have claimed that there's mermaids.
Yes, yes. That's also why I added it. It's a
It's
religious man.
important.
So it has
That's
a little
cool.
bit more credibility, right?
Right.
Okay. In 1718, Samuel Fowlers claimed to have actually caught a mermaid and brought it into his home. Unfortunately, he decided to put the creature in a container of water and attempt to feed it. It refused to eat and it died after 4 days. He also
Oh,
noted it squeaked like a mouse.
wow.
Sad. Yeah.
Oh, it might be those like creatures from Harry Potter that you have to go under the water to actually hear their voice.
Oh,
So to us, they sound like squeaking.
I was thinking those things that you, for some reason, the little things that you pull out of the root and they're like, ah,
Oh my
whatever it's
gosh, the
called.
mandrakes.
Yes, that's what I thought you were talking about. But
That's
oh
funny.
gosh, I forgot that there were mermaids in Harry Potter as well. They're everywhere.
Yes, they're everywhere. Yeah, I mean, geez,
Jeez, they must be real.
let's be real.
In 1810, a fisherman in Britain claimed to hear a noise he originally thought to be a dying bird. Upon inspection, he found the corpse of one merchild and another injured merchild. He took the child home and nursed them to health. The man reported feeding the merchild a diet of milk and mussels. The merchild was described as having the torso of a child, tail of a fish, with hair green like seaweed.
Okay, so this is the second account of green hair.
Yes.
Okay, so who is this guy?
This one didn't, I couldn't find a name. It just said a fisherman in Britain.
Okay, wow,
Yeah,
and it's in his journal or something.
I'm assuming.
That's
Or it's
cool.
just an old wives' tale. Who knows? But either way. Okay, which brings us to our biggest story of the night.
Okay, should I
Night.
sit down for this?
Oh, I thought you were already sitting down. You weren't getting blown away by this? My goodness.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was sitting down because I was blown away.
Hold your wig on. Hold your
Okay.
wig on tight. 1943, Japanese soldiers stationed off the shores of the Key Islands in Indonesia spotted several mermaids, or what is referred to the locals in Malay as orang akan,
Mm.
meaning human fish. Orang means human, akan meaning fish.
Okay, that
So
is crazy. As we started off in Scotland, then England, Zimbabwe, and now we're in Japan.
we're going all over the place, baby.
Around the world.
Around the world in mermaid days. Can't come up with a good. That's okay. All right. Sergeant Taro Hariba, I hope I'm saying that right, who was stationed there at the time, described these creatures as 4'9", so just as tall as you, in
Nice.
tall, pinkish,
That was rude.
salmon-colored skin. This is basically this. Okay, let's start over. 4'9" with pinkish salmon-colored skin. Are we not exactly like human-looking face and limbs with frog-like legs? Come on, that's you, Kris. Just kidding. 4'9".
Okay, for anybody that doesn't know me personally, she's referring to my web toes. Yes, I have two web
I
toes.
was not.
Yes, you are. Frog-like feet. Excuse
I
you.
said legs. I said legs. You're calling yourself out.
Listen. And the pinkish skin, I have all of. I'm the one that can tan, girlfriend. I'm the sister that can tan, so I don't know what you're saying.
This
Also,
is getting personal.
I'm 5'2". I'm not 4'9".
Okay.
Just setting the record straight.
So maybe you're not this one, but he does come upon another creature that is 5'2". So
Okay, well, when we circle back to that, you can wake me up. Since that actually is my MO.
okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so these creatures now, 4'9", pinkish salmon-colored skin, human-looking face and limbs, frog-like legs, spikes along its head, sometimes its neck and shoulders, and a mouth like a carp. The soldiers had many tales of sighting of their orang-utan, usually found in lagoons swimming around or lying on secluded beaches. Some sightings included these creatures holding fish and shoving them into their large slit mouths.
Wow.
Upon performing duties of the day, Sergeant Hariba was summoned to a nearby village by their chief. He was told that an orang-utan had washed ashore and the body was on display in the local village hut. Still skeptical after seeing these creatures from afar, he knew this was his chance to see one up close. He left and traveled to the nearby village. Upon entering the hut, Hariba was baffled by what he saw. He described the dead creature as 5'2". There you are.
Yes. Hey,
With
that's me.
patchy, this it gets even better. With patchy red-brown shoulder-length hair. He said it
Oh.
was quite ugly, with human and ape-like features
That's
in the
me,
face.
baby. That's me.
A low, short nose, broad forehead, small ears, lipless mouth, wide like a fish with
Okay. All
needle-like
right.
teeth.
All right. This is getting personal. That's offensive. That is nothing more than offensive.
It's for science. He's explaining you for
How
science.
dare you? This all of those things.
So here we are. Your lipless mouth with needle-like teeth.
Oh,
It does have webbed toes and fingers with claws.
okay.
So
I'm
maybe
wounded.
this is you.
No, it's me. I don't like, I never cut my nails. My nails are always super long. I have webbed toes. I have
Oh
tiny
no.
ears.
Oh no.
No upper lip.
Oh no.
A large foot. Like, what is this?
You were found
They
by
saw
Sergeant
me.
Hariba.
I've been to Japan.
This is Indonesia, but he's from Japan. Yeah. Oh
My
gosh.
ancestors, whatever.
Correct. All right. So he reported there was some type of algae covering the corpse and it smelled horrible, like a mix of rotting meat and fish at the same time.
Yikes.
Yeah. So your ancestors are the ones who came up with the need for deodorant, I'm guessing.
I try to make the world a better place.
With this confirmation of the body and the fact that there were no known creatures on the island it could have belonged to, he returned to Japan after his deployment. The body, he couldn't just ignore that. No longer able to push back his doubts on what he and the other soldiers had been seeing, he tried to get the attention of the scientific community to validate the sightings. But unfortunately, he was ignored.
Okay, that's nuts. Because just think about all of the sightings that have been unreported that
Yeah.
actually happened. These are just the ones we know about.
Right, the ones that have made it through like the test of time. And even there were a lot more, but I picked and choose so that we didn't have like a 3-hour episode of me
So
just naming off sightings.
you cherry picked
I did.
the mermaid sightings and
Yes.
thinking about all that, know that they're going to be treated like this guy to the
Yes.
scientists of like, well, that's hogwash. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
So that is like, that's nuts. There must be thousands of reports.
Oh yeah. There's whole websites dedicated to the lore of mermaids and it's just scroll after scroll of this. Somebody saw this, somebody saw this, somebody saw this. And there are a lot of throughout the world, a lot of different accounts of mermaids or mermaid-like creatures. They're all over the place.
Wow. What a weird world.
What a weird world. Speaking of what a weird world, I understand that you have a weird fact of the week for us, Kris.
Weird fact of the week, baby. That's what I'm about. And let's move over to Kris's corner.
Ooh, nice and cozy in Kris's corner.
Yeah, I try. So basically, what we want to do every week is just have a weird fact that doesn't have to do with folklore. Sometimes it might, ease into folklore, Greek mythology, whatever it is. But it's just one weird little fact because we live in a world that, like I said, the majority of the Earth is the ocean, and it's only 95% discovered. So how many things we don't even know about and we're continuing to discover daily is insane. So
it's 95% undiscovered.
95% undiscovered.
Gotcha.
Did I say discovered?
Yes, I think you did.
That would be nuts. I think we would have literally like flying cities if we discovered 95% of the ocean.
We might even live in the ocean.
In the ocean, yeah.
In some kind of underwater lake or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like sandy cheeks, just like a bubble of air. That would be so sweet. We need to get on that. So this news article is titled "Female Octopuses Throw Things at Males That Are Harassing Them."
Okay.
First of all,
goals,
girl boss energy. Their octopuses are so octopi. Octopi are so interesting. They're so human-like, and you'll see divers go down and kind of communicate with them. And I wanted to stick on theme with the mermaids because there's so many things in the oceans that have this connection with humans. And
Hmm.
octopi are one of those things. So it's so funny that they have this almost human characteristic of females, not being able to get that guy to like get away from you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's okay, so let me continue with the article. So it starts off an analysis of footage of octopus off the coast of Australia throwing shells, and Slit suggests that they intentionally target and often hit other octopuses.
Oh
In
my
most
gosh.
in most cases, it's females that do the throwing at often males that are harassing them. So octopi they throw shells and rocks and things to clear out their dens where they
Hmm.
live. Um, but they recently discovered it continues um, to go on, and it says so this team of researchers wanted to figure out the difference between intentionally targeting and then maybe just accidentally hitting them.
Okay.
The article continues and says now the team has more footage and detailed analysis, has also reviewed differences between throws targeting others and those used for den clearing, suggesting that octopus are indeed deliberately targeting others. In 2016, for instance, one female octopus slit 10 times at a male from a nearby den who was attempting to mate with her. She hit him on 5 occasions. This sequence was one of those that convinced me it was intentional, said the
Oh,
scientist.
that's so cute.
On 4 of these occasions, the male tried to duck, though he didn't always succeed. In 2 cases, he anticipated the throws from the female's movements and
Oh
started
my
dodging
gosh.
them
Oh my
before the
gosh.
slit was propelled at him.
I'm picturing like a soap opera just with octopus. Like he cheated on her. She's mad. She's like, get
Oh
out of
my
my house.
gosh.
Get
Oh,
out. And
and
just throwing things at him.
he's like, baby, no,
Yeah.
come here, baby boo. And then she's just like, and he's having to like dodge all this stuff.
Yes. Oh, that's great.
So octopus are basically like slimy humans. So there you go. That's my Kris's corner for the week. And it won't always be on theme, but I just thought that was just too beautiful not to share. That yes, ladies, even octopi have a problem with men not knowing their place.
Come on, learn your limits, people.
Learn your limits, baby. You might get
Consent, even in the animal
in the Animal
kingdom.
Kingdom, you might get, some seashells and rocks hurled at your face if you
That
don't
would
back up, boy.
actually, I know it's hurling through water, but that would hurt getting a
Well,
seashell thrown at your head.
an octopus use like the centrifugal force of the water.
Oh,
Like they
yeah.
have that crazy like whirlpool effect. They're
Right.
incredible creatures.
They can fit through anything the size of their beak.
They have like no bones.
It's disgusting, but
They
also amazing.
they're the coolest animals, and they have human-like features.
Yeah,
It's insane.
it is. I agree. All right. Well, that was pretty cool.
Thank you. So even if there aren't mermaids, there are mermaid-like creatures that are 100% real.
I agree. That's where I'm standing at least this week.
Right.
Next week, we are going to stay on the same topic of mermaids, and we're going to be covering recent mermaid sightings within the last 20 years or so.
Ooh.
And hoaxes throughout time.
Oh, that's so cool because the ones we talked about were a little more on the history side.
Right,
So this
right.
is going to be like applicable to today.
Where are they now?
Where
That
are
kind
they
of
now?
mermaids. Where are they now?
Part
Yeah,
two.
exactly. All right. So, do you want to let everybody know if they're listening where they can find us?
We do have an Instagram. We have a Facebook. Follow us on whatever you can. Share it, if you're interested in this, if you think that we have done our job and entertained you properly, hit that like button, hit that follow button. Do what you can to support a small podcast because we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, ratings really help. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, and you like us, can you leave us a review? If you don't like us, just go away. We don't
Then
need you.
that's fine.
Thank you.
We're not making you like us. Just,
Please
if you
don't hurt our
do,
feelings, please. We worked so hard.
it's all your choice. It really is. So search us up. Our is at What a Weird World pod. Our email is the same at gmail.com. And then on Twitter, we are at What a Weird Pod. So if you have a nice, sexy second, just give us a follow.
I like that. Sexy second. Yeah.
You
Spend
know,
your sexy seconds with us. Come give us a like.
everybody has a sexy second during the day that they can, give a little.
Give a little in your sexy seconds.
Be a little charitable.
All right. Well, thank you. I hope we have some listeners, and we will see you guys next week.
See you next week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Bye bye.